missed it, I recently made a video going over some of the reasons I believe Kamala Harris lost in this election. So I thought today we could make a little follow-up from the other side and cover some of the factors that I believe contributed to Donald Trump's victory in the election. And there's a lot of things that I want to get into. I think there are a ton of different reasons that played into the outcome of the election, especially the way it played out with, Trump winning and winning the popular vote, and then also taking the House and the Senate. So, yeah, there's a lot to get into. I don't have any notes, which I probably should have done. So I'm just gonna be riffing off the top of my head. We'll see. I'll try to get to everything. I'm sure I'll leave some things out. But before we get into the video, just wanted to mention I'm not trying to change anyone's mind. I could not care less who you voted for or what your political leanings might be, and I think that's kind of a sentiment I wish, more people had. I think it would allow for a lot more discourse between the two sides, which I think is extremely important. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. I think a good point to start out at is the strength of Donald Trump's base. I don't think it's any secret that he's got a very strong voter base. The MAGA crowd, they love Donald Trump. He can do no wrong. There is nothing that would have prevented them from voting for Trump in the election. And that, obviously, that starts in 2016. So, how he was able to develop that was, I think, conservatives were tired of the same old career politicians, people who have been in government for 20, 30 years, who have been able to work their way up by making a bunch of promises that they don't necessarily deliver on. And it was kind of a rejection of the status quo that allowed for Trump to come in, and it was a lot of the allure of Donald Trump. Here's a guy coming from the outside who's going to drain the swamp. He doesn't have, a huge donor class. He doesn't have a bunch of lobbyists that are gonna restrain him from delivering on the promises that he's going to be making. And that was a refreshing sight for them. This is an outsider. They saw a lot of corruption in government. Whether it's these representatives who have a $150K salary and are worth hundreds of millions of was signed off by the Clintons, and turned up no evidence whatsoever of any sort of collusion between them. You know, that's only gonna work to kind of confirm their suspicions that there are some corrupt forces in the government. And then you move on to, you know, the censorship of the Hunter Biden laptop story, where 51 former intelligence agents signed a letter claiming that it was Russian misinformation. And, well, turns out it wasn't, but if you ever read that letter, it was like really clever how they worded it. It was like, I can't remember, but like something along the lines of, based on our experience, this has the appearance of Russian misinformation. So, by saying that, based on our experience, it might be Russian misinformation, they're able to maintain that plausible deniability. They never outright say that it was Russian misinformation, which, you know, at this point I think everyone knows that it wasn't. But that's another factor. Like, when you see the intelligence community colluding with big tech on behalf of one party, if you don't want to call it corruption, that's fine, but the appearance of corruption is there for sure. So, or at least it's gotta raise your suspicions. So that's, you know, it's things like that that only work to like strengthen their belief in him. And so then you move up to today, where he's now considered a convicted felon based on one misdemeanor that was stretched into, what was it, like 32 or 34? I think 34 different versions of the same misdemeanor that he was charged with after the statute of limitations had passed. You know, it's I don't know. I mean, I think no matter how much you dislike the guy, I think that's just not a good precedent to set. You know, would he have been charged if it was someone else? I don't know. But, you know, it at least has the appearance of being politically motivated. So, when you see things like that, you know, his base is it's just going to confirm their suspicions, and that's not even to mention the fact that he had 2 assassination attempts, one which almost actually killed him. So, yeah, that is kind of how he's been able to grow that base. And to kind of link that together, it's also, like, part of it is because you know, the left side of legacy media has been telling them that you know, this guy is going to go after his political opponents if he gets into office, and it seems like it's the other way around. And not only that, but he had the opportunity to go after Hillary Clinton for legitimate reasons if he wanted to, and he didn't do that. So, you know, a lot of the things that the other side is saying about their guy, it seems like they're doing that themselves. So that, yeah, I mean, like, that only kind of strengthens their belief too. So just gonna leave the support of Donald Trump there, but I think there's a bit more to talk about because he had a lot of support from outside of his base. He was obviously able to win over a lot of independent voters, and I think he won over some people on the left too. And you know, to kind of tie this back into the Kamala video, because I talked about her celebrity endorsements there. I think the endorsements that Trump got played a big factor. So he was able to get people like Elon was a huge one, obviously. Joe Rogan, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, and I put more stock into those endorsements than the ones that Kamala got because they had more of a grassroots feel. And you know, those four people, what do they have in common? They all used to be Democrats, and Trump himself used to be a Democrat. And you know, they're not conservatives like those four. They're not. They're liberals. They're what liberals used to be. And I don't get the sense that they've shifted their values towards the Conservative Party. I think that the Democratic Party has shifted their values away from what those four people believe. And I think, because I mean, they have very reasonable takes on a lot of things, and you know, the Democratic Party kind of demonized Joe Rogan, especially during COVID, and they demonized Elon Musk, which, you know, shunning those two people, I think it's just a huge mistake. You know, Elon Musk, whether you like him or not, he is going to go down as one of the most impactful people in human history. You know, a really, really extraordinary person. You know, very exceptional. Like, the amount of things that he's doing is something that you just don't really see. And so, but they completely kicked him out, and I can't really understand that. And they did the same thing with Joe Rogan. I mean, he does hold, I guess, some conservative values, but he's a center-left guy, you know, really just reasonable, but he didn't fall into some of the more extreme ideologies. He just didn't buy into that at all, and I think that's what kind of led him into getting the boot a little bit and led to him endorsing Trump. So, and then, I mean, you got Tulsi Gabbard, she's been labeled as a Russian agent. I mean, she was another really reasonable Democrat that, you know, frankly, a lot of people like, and, you know, ironically was the one who pretty much took Kamala out of the race last time. And then you've got RFK Jr., he's been labeled as an anti-vaxxer, even though he's just pro-safe vaccines. And he has a lot of reasonable stances on a lot of things, comes from a historic family, and I think their values were just too centrist for the current direction of the party, which is why things played out the way they did. And I think such a large, not just mouthpiece, but like influence on the direction of the party and influence on policy. The vast majority of people on both sides are definitely towards the center. So when you give, such a large platform to some of the more fringe ideas, whether it's like some of the woke stuff, like most people are of the approach of live and let live. Don't really care. Just, I don't like it being shoved in my face. And they really don't like when, if they disagree with those ideas, they don't like being told that it's because you're a racist or a fascist or a bigot or whatever, or like it's coming from some place of hate. No, it's not. They just don't like having things shoved in their face that they don't agree with. They want to take more of a common sense approach. So I think that pushed a lot of people who would consider themselves to be like slightly left of center more towards it's not even like conservative side, because like the MAGA crowd, it's different than like traditional conservatism. It's a lot more populist. So I think that's also, because it's a big net to cast that a lot of people can look to and find things that they agree with in. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. And then I guess there's like one smaller section of voters who were probably like tired of being fed up and like told what to do and told all these like terrible things that they are if they vote for this guy. So it was kind of like a middle finger to the system. Like, I'm gonna vote for him anyway, regardless of what you think, which is like a very American thing to do, I think. So anyway, I think that's about it as far as his like voting base. I tried to cover a little bit of everything there. I'm sure I missed some stuff, but oh well. So next up, I wanted to cover some of the things that he did well during his campaign. So we'll start off with the debate against Joe Biden, and I think everyone, like, once you heard both of them speak, it was pretty clear that there was only going to be one winner of that debate. Like, Joe looked bad. He looked really bad. And I think most people were like at least somewhat aware of that. But seeing him like the way he was on the debate stage, I think it was really eye-opening to a lot of people. And sometimes we've seen Trump in debates before where he doesn't hold back. He can really go in on someone, almost like a roast more than a debate. But I think he did a good job of realizing, like, in that moment, it wasn't like that wasn't the time or place to do that. He would have looked really bad if he just tore Joe apart in that debate. And so I think that was a great move on his part, really understanding the moment. And he probably would have gotten a ton of well-deserved backlash if he had just torn Joe to pieces that night, because it was clear that Joe wasn't really all there. So then after that, Kamala gets inserted as the candidate going forward. I think it was like 3 weeks after. And from the get-go, Trump did a very good job of linking Kamala to Joe. Just making her was able to tie them together and pin it on her, which was a good move. It was, I mean, it's like such a difficult thing to come back from when you're trying to make it. From Kamala's perspective, you're trying to make, all these proposed ideas and like promises for the next 4 years, but you've already been in office 4 years, and why aren't we doing these things right now? You're starting off very much on the back foot. Like it's a very, very difficult starting point. I'm not sure many people would have been able to work their way out of that one. So that was a good move by Trump. And then also, like, he has a lot of policies that people like, that people are excited about. So like the tax cuts. Something a lot of people liked was the no tax on tips, which I think would be great. Like there's a lot of people who work in the food industry that would help out a ton. And then no tax on overtime. I think Kamala actually took both of those ideas afterwards, which would be great. There's a lot of people who have to work a lot of extra hours to make ends meet, and that, right away, would really help people a lot. And then I think ramping up energy production domestically would also help out quite a bit, which is something that he's definitely mentioned. And so that'll immediately decrease gas prices as well as input costs for all kinds of different materials, food, groceries, whatever. That should lower prices over time. So, I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but these are policies that people were definitely on board with, especially given the economic climate over the past few years, and, you can say that it's been essentially a global depression, and that is true, and we have done well, macroeconomically speaking, relative to the rest of the world. We have done very well macroeconomically, but when people don't feel that, in their pockets, they see their rent go up, they see their income go down thanks to inflation, they could not care less about how we're doing macroeconomically. If they feel like they're worse off now than they were 4 years ago, then a lot of people are gonna have to think about which way they want to go. So I think those were a lot of like the policy factors that played into it. And one last thing I wanted to talk about was some of the mistakes that the Democratic Party and the legacy media, specifically the left-leaning legacy media, have made over the years that contributed to where we are today. And I think the legacy media has kind of proceeded under the assumption that the landscape of news and media wasn't going to change, for a long time now. And even still today, a lot of media that you see is very left-leaning, like Facebook, Google, Twitter. Up until Elon purchased it, they're all Silicon Valley companies. They're all very left-leaning, so they essentially had a monopoly on the output of news. And even to this day, if you go on Google, it's very the Washington Post or the New York Times, who used to be very, very reputable news companies, and now a lot of the times it's just they're activists disguised as journalists, and a lot of people don't like that. I just want, like, when I'm looking at the news, I want to see the story. I don't want to see a certain slant on it. I just want the information, and I want to be able to make up my own mind. And I think a lot of people want that as well. Which, you know, I think legacy media kind of took advantage of, and you know, they've been going further and further in one direction this whole time, that I think they've left a lot of people behind. And most people like, you know, a common sense approach. They don't want things that they don't believe in to be shoved in their face all the time. And I think the outcome of this election was a big reflection of that, and I'm hoping that you know, we can come together as people. I think, you know, given the way that it played out, you know, it was a bit of a landslide. I'm hoping that it's kind of a wake-up call for the left to kind of just come back a bit to the center. You know, there's a lot of things that people like independent and left of center agree with you on, but let's cut down on the fringes a little bit, come back towards the center, and move forward. And I'm hoping that, you know, we can have faith in the people. They, you know, it was loud and clear that they didn't agree with the direction things were going. They wanted to go a different direction under Donald Trump, and I'm hoping that we can respect that, and at the very least leave the window open for the opportunity that you might be pleasantly surprised. And I saw something online the other day. I can't remember where I saw it, so I apologize. But it was like, if you're one of the people who are concerned about Trump coming into office, to write down whatever your concerns might be, whatever fears you might have, whatever worries you about his presidency, and then list the reason why you have that fear or that concern or whatever. And every few months or so, just check in on those fears and see, and just see if they were valid. And maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised, maybe not. And that's something you can do if you're supportive of Trump as well. You know, write down some of the things that you're excited about and check in on those things every few months. And I think that'd be a great way to kind of set your baseline right now, and then just see how it evolves over the next 4 years. You never know. So, anyway, I'll go ahead and wrap this up here. I think I covered a lot. I'm sure I left a lot out, so if I did, I apologize. I'm 100% certain that I did, but oh well, I didn't. I should have had notes, honestly. Like, that was so dumb. Anyway, if you guys want to see more content like this, let me know down below, but that'll do it for this one. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was relaxing. And if you did like it, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more. And I will see you all